What's up, guys? Crypto Muser here. So obviously Ripple came out today with an objection to the SEC's request for that extension and for the Judge Netburn to reconsider the judgment on if those emails of the drafts of the him and ETH free pass speech, that basically the SEC wants those emails to be protected and not to be viewed by Ripple's lawyers. You know, I've said this in my last video, you know, I really hope and I believe Judge Netburn will deny this request. You know, the SEC is basically grasping at straws at this point. I mean, they're really backed into a corner, which is why this case will definitely settle. I mean, the timing of that settlement is really up to how long the SEC can delay. I mean, they've delayed this case, you know, for almost 6 months now. I mean, expert discovery was supposed to end last August, and now we're sitting here at the end of January. So those efforts by the SEC to delay this case, I mean, has obviously, you know, benefited the SEC. And I honestly believe that the SEC at this point, you know, really can't, you know, let Ripple see these emails, because obviously there's something damaging to their case in these emails. And I think there's something damaging to their case for, you know, their power over crypto in these emails. You know, so, and honestly too, the fair notice argument or the fair notice ruling is coming out any day now. And that's another thing that if they lose that, if SEC loses that ruling, that takes even more power away from the SEC. So, you know, at this point, you know, the SEC is really on the clock here. You know, the clock is ticking on the SEC basically. And, you know, it's really up to how much power they're willing to give up, you know, in this case. You know, at this point, it looks so bad for the SEC that, you know, the only real option for them is to basically, you know, save face, you know, by taking a settlement that kind of has the optics that the SEC didn't really, you know, get destroyed by Ripple, which they did. I mean, absolutely got destroyed in this case. So, I mean, for them to still have a little bit of power left over the crypto market, you know, what I see basically is, you know, Ripple has said from day one that the only way they settle, and I think Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, has said that the only way they settle this case is if XRP has clarity in the market, and that, you know, Ripple can basically move on with business in the US. And they've been doing great. I mean, they've been, in the last year during this case, they've made deals outside of the US with many other governments and many other countries and central banks. So, you know, business has been booming for Ripple. So in this case, you know, they're really looking to, you know, get some clarity in the US so that, you know, those companies in the US that are basically standing by waiting for the conclusion of this case can actually, you know, move forward, and, you know, Ripple can, you know, because they are, you know, their head office is in San Francisco. So they're a US company. So they're trying to make it in the US, you know, and obviously the US markets are the biggest markets in the world. So, you know, that's huge for Ripple. So like I said, you know, the only way they settle is if XRP has clarity, you know, moving forward. But the SEC, you know, what they want basically is they want a big enough fine to make it look like they had, you know, they didn't, like I said, they didn't get completely destroyed by Ripple. You know, if they come out with the, you know, the optics of this, look at it this way. You know, if they come out with like the biggest fine that the SEC has ever given out, you know, like $150 million fine to Ripple, and, you know, it looks good for the SEC. You know, they don't lose all their power. It looks like they gave them a good fight. But, you know, XRP, you know, they say that the sales of XRP back in 2013 to 16 were selling securities, but now today's XRP is not a security, and, you know, Ripple can move forward. So it's kind of like a win-win for both of them. You know, the SEC gets the optics of actually, you know, the biggest settlement. It will be the headline in the news. And, you know, then the SEC can really kind of move on, and, you know, they still have some power over the market. You know, so I believe, you know, this gets settled within the next couple of weeks or so. I honestly think that, you know, they go to the table. They're in settlement talks from now till, you know, the beginning of February. And then, you know, I'm sure we'll hear rumblings about this soon enough. And, you know, I know that Fox Business is on this, like Eleanor Tourette and Charles Gasparino, and then the attorneys in the XRP community will be on it. As soon as there's any, you know, notion that there's a settlement in the works, we will know about it. So, I think that honestly, I believe a settlement and a win for Ripple could really be a major catalyst to turn this market around and give some confidence back to investors. So, I know the market's doing terrible right now, but, this case really has a lot around it right now. And this really could give, like I said, give that confidence back to investors and, take a little bit of power away from the SEC because, there's just been so much fear in this market. And, in my past video, I talked about there's just fear in all the markets in the world right now. So just to give, the crypto market a little boost, to give them a little, like I said, just a little more clarity and knowing what they're investing in would be a huge thing, for this market. So, timing is everything, obviously. So it's going to be very interesting, in the coming weeks. And I think everybody should be paying attention to this because, it really has to do with the whole crypto market. So moving on to the video. So this is just basically James Phelan putting out Ripple defendants have filed an objection to the SEC's request for additional time to file a motion for reconsideration of Judge Netburn's DPP ruling. So there was actually two motions that the SEC put out. So the first motion, which is pretty funny. So the first motion was basically to request that the judge reconsider that those emails were actually protected and that they were actually had to do with SEC policy and they should be, basically protected and Ripple shouldn't be able to see them. But then the second motion was basically saying, if that ruling by Judge Netburn gets denied, then they want more time. Basically, they want another month to respond to that denial by Judge Netburn. So it's kind of funny. It's like they give you the first motion, and then the second motion is basically they know they're going to lose the first motion, so they want another month to basically come up with a rebuttal to that motion that they know they're probably going to lose. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Kind of, I know it's confusing, but all it means to me or to anybody, any attorney or anybody looking at it is that they want more time. They're trying to get more time. They don't want these emails, obviously, out there. They don't want Ripple to see them. So they want more time. It's a month for this, another month for this. It's like I said, this should have ended in August, and now we're sitting here in almost February, and they're trying to delay again and again. So it's a delay tactic. Like I said, it's the only thing the SEC has at this point, and it's just really funny because we see right through it. Like I think the judge sees right through it too. It's like the judge. There's no way that the judge will give them this extension because it's like, how much patience can the judge have with all this? And like I've said before, it just seems like the SEC is on trial now. The SEC is the one that has so much pressure on them at all times, and Ripple's basically has all the power. So it's like, I think there was a great story, and I think it was Forbes, I believe it was Forbes magazine, that was saying basically, yeah, the SEC is on trial. And that's what it's been looking like for the last couple months, and it just doesn't look so good for the SEC. Moving on, so this was a great thread I saw from John Deaton. Just love this guy. John Deaton, unbelievable what he's done for the XRP community. I believe now he has 10,000 international investors and almost 10,000 U.S. investors that have signed a petition to start an investigation against the SEC. So those are big numbers, 10,000 international investors and 10,000 U.S. investors. And he still has, I think it's now 80,000 XRP holders that are signed on with him against the lawsuit against the SEC. So don't act like, the government and the SEC and Congress is not listening to all this. Like they're definitely, hearing us. And in these midterms coming up, there's going to be a lot to do with crypto and all this. Like in politics, it's all about getting those voters to come and vote on something. Because, obviously we know, I don't know if you guys know, only half the country usually votes. And that's in the presidential election. In the midterms, it's usually much less. It's usually like, maybe 20 to 30% of the people actually vote in the midterms. So to give people an actual reason to go vote is going to be huge. So like if you give, crypto investors a reason to go to the voting booths and vote against people that are, anti-crypto, then they will. We know this crypto community. We're strong. We will use our vote for our advantage. And, if the Democrats want to be anti-crypto, we're voting them out. If if it's a Republican that's anti-crypto, we got to vote them out. So it's going to be very interesting coming up to these midterm elections, because we have crypto community as a whole has a reason to be voting in these midterms. So it's, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. So John Deaton put this out, a great thread, just going over this Bill Hinman speech, and it's just funny how the SEC is trying to say, before it was just Hinman's opinion, and now they're trying to say actually it was kind of had something to do with the SEC policy, and they're back and forth and back and forth. But basically, at the end of it, they're trying to say that it's their opinion. And it's funny when any SEC official goes on CNBC or any news outlet, they say that in the beginning of the speech, they always say, oh, this is, by the way, this has nothing to do with SEC policy. This is only my opinion. But they know, if an SEC official goes on the news or goes on a broadcast somewhere and they give, recommendations on, on the markets, obviously the market's going to take those recommendations as SEC, guidance. So they know what they're doing, I'm sure the lawyers tell them to always say that before every interview or every speech, but they know what they're doing. So let's just get into this. Absolute, conclusive, and irrefutable proof. Bill Hinman intentionally misled the public as director of corporate finance while at the SEC. Watch this 4-minute CNBC clip and then read the brief thread that follows. So let's watch this, guys, and we'll read the thread after. And we're loading. Hold on a sec. Let's get this. Okay. Here we go, guys.
So you said in your speech that neither Bitcoin nor Ether would be considered securities and thus not under the purview of the SEC. Can you very briefly explain what your reasoning is?
Sure, Bob. These are complex facts and circumstances tests, but when we look at Bitcoin or if we look at Ether and the highly decentralized nature of the...
Hold on a sec, guys. So when he keeps saying we, who does he mean by that? We believe Ether is not a security. We believe, I love when they try to say that this has nothing to do with the SEC. When he keeps saying we, that obviously means we at the SEC. And even the interviewer at the beginning says, the SEC came out and said this, and he didn't correct him and say, actually, it's not the SEC's, it's not the SEC that said this. It's just me, and this is my personal opinion. No, he didn't correct him. They know what they're doing here, guys. Don't act like they're stupid. So let's just start from the beginning here.
You said in your speech that neither Bitcoin nor Ether would be considered securities and thus not under the purview of the SEC. Can you very briefly explain what your reasoning is?
Sure, Bob. These are complex facts and circumstances tests, but when we look at Bitcoin or if we look at Ether and the highly decentralized nature of the networks, we don't see a third-party promoter where applying the disclosure regime would make a lot of sense. So we're comfortable in some sort of viewing these as items that don't have to be regulated as securities.
Now, you also talked about initial coin offerings or ICOs, which are ways of raising money using cryptocurrencies. Did you use a similar reasoning? You implied that most seem to be securities, ICOs, but some of them are not. Can you just show us what the difference is simply?
I wish we had a simple way to say this is in and this is out. As I mentioned, they're usually facts and circumstances tests. But a key factor is there a third-party promoter here who knows much more about the instrument than investors might? If that's the case, that's sort of an initial indicator that we might have a securities transaction. If people are buying it for investment and for a return and looking to that party for a return, then again, that's an indicia of a security. If you have, on the other hand, a token that's just used in the network for a good or service, and that's why people are buying it, and that service is available and up and running, not under development, then you may not have a security.
Mr. Hinman, Kelly here. Just to be clear, does that mean if stocks didn't have a third-party promoter, they wouldn't be securities?
Well, as you know, Kelly, stocks represent an interest in an enterprise where there's a management team, and it's really, whenever you're buying a stock or a bond, you're relying on that management team. Those are the third-party efforts we're talking about, where someone is creating value for you, you're passive, and you're expecting their efforts to generate a return.
So just to be clear, for example, a Book of the Month club that we're joining on an ICO, or a golf club membership, we're not expecting any financial gain there. That would not be considered a security, am I right?
Fair enough. If you have that system up and running, if you have someone promoting the next golf course and is selling interests, and the architect and the land and all the key items aren't there yet, and you buy 25 memberships, that may be an investment. You're looking for a return on that. On the other hand, if you go down the road and you buy an investment, or you buy a membership in a club that's up and running and you just use it to play a round of golf, that's probably just a good old golf membership.
You and Jay Clayton, the head of the SEC, have been very adamant that you are not going to change the definition of securities laws to fit this new technology. One of the points you made in your speech was the concern about the fraud that was out there in this space. Are you seeing significant fraud?
We do certainly see cases where people are trying to repackage an investment opportunity as a coin or a token, and saying that somehow because it's labeled that way, it's not an investment security. And in many cases, we have seen people doing that where the underlying enterprise is not a solid investment opportunity. It's been misrepresented. So we do see fraud, and we do see it being packaged up this way. On the other hand, we think there's an enormous amount of promise in the distributed ledger technology and blockchain technology, and we meet frequently with legitimate parties here really trying to do something innovative, and we're trying to help them navigate the securities laws as they do so.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube.
So very interesting there, guys, right? So let's just get into the thread that John Deaton puts out here. So on December 13th, 2017, Hinman had a meeting with Joe Lubin and Consensus. Obviously, Joe Lubin is the CEO of Consensus and one of the founders of Ethereum. So he has a meeting with Joe Lubin and Consensus and lawyers from Sullivan and Cromwell, which is Jay Layton, the chair at the time at the SEC's, that's Clayton's law firm. The next day, December 14th, Matt Corva of Consensus, with lawyers from Sullivan and Cromwell, stated that they were building an alliance with the SEC. 6 weeks later, on January 25th, 2018, Clayton meets with Chris Dixon and Andreessen Horowitz with their basically their crypto venture capitalist firm, and instructs him to put together a group within the industry and write up a memo. Perkins Coie, a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, led this group of Ethereum investors. So on March 26, 2018, attorney Lowell Ness of Perkins Coie sent Hinman a memo and safe harbor proposal. The only crypto asset mentioned in that safe harbor proposal is Ethereum. 2 days later, on March 28, 2018, Ethereum investors meet secretly with Bill Hinman asking for a regulatory free pass from the SEC. Then on April 23, 2018, the SEC meets again with Joe Lubin and Consensus. On May 12, 2018, Lubin stated that he was, and he quoted, making great strides with regulators. And then on, a couple weeks later, on May 24, 2018, Lubin claimed he could issue tokens in a way detailed in Hinman's speech, which hasn't been delivered yet. So basically in May 24th, he's giving, he's communicating things that are in that speech, but the speech hasn't even been given yet. So obviously he had something to do with writing that speech. So then on June 8th, 2018, Consensus meets with the SEC again. Lubin commented how the market needed the SEC to scare some projects away. I mean, really? You're going to try to scare other projects away and try to give yourself clarity in the market? And then 6 days later, on June 14, 2018, Hinman gave his speech and declared that ongoing sales of Ethereum were not in violation of U.S. securities laws. Incredibly, he then goes on CNBC with Bob Bazzani and says, we at the SEC don't see a third-party promoter when looking at Ether. For that statement to be truthful, he must have been blindfolded during all those meetings with the co-founder of Ethereum and founder of Consensus. Exactly, guys. For him to say, and that was the big thing that stood out to me in that video we watched, when he said that if you see a third-party promoter in these projects, that probably would make it a security. So he's trying to say that Ether has no third-party promoter. Does ETH have a third-party promoter? I believe they do, and it's called the Ethereum Foundation. And even Consensus could even, be a Ethereum proponent, because the CEO of the Consensus is the co-founder of Ethereum. So it's just crazy to think that Hinman had all these meetings, and yes, he had all these meetings with Consensus and Ethereum employees, but yet then they go out and give Ethereum a free pass. It just doesn't smell good. It doesn't smell right, guys. It just this is not the type of thing we need in this market. And I have nothing against Ethereum. I own Ethereum, but it needs to be a level playing field here. You can't have people working with the SEC and government officials and giving and having them basically pick winners and losers in the market. This is a free market system. Let the market decide on what's the best project. I mean, if Ethereum is the best project and it wins out in the future, then they have every right to win in the future. But if they're not, and honestly, with the gas fees and everything going on, it just doesn't make much sense that Ether is really the leader in the market in smart contracts and their network right now. So like I said, it just irks me, and everybody, even if you're an Ethereum fan, you should be against this type of behavior. This is the last thing we need is this type of thing. So let's just get into, so Eleanor Tourette, the reporter in Fox Business, actually also tweeted out that same video of Bill Hinman, and she said, when we look at Bitcoin and when we look at Bitcoin and when we look at Ether, we are comfortable viewing these as items that don't have to be regulated as securities. And she even says, who is we if not the SEC? So exactly, like, you can say this is your opinion all you want, but you're obviously not saying, I believe, or I look at this, or I view Ether as secure. You're saying we. So how did the market take this? Obviously as SEC guidance. And then just to go on with that, I've seen this a lot. The haters of XRP love to say that, Ripple employees dump on XRP investors. That's all I hear when I get hated on Twitter. It's like, oh, that XRP is just shitcoin. The Ripple employees just dump on you guys all the time, or Jed McKeel dumps on you guys all the time, and that's why it's such a shitcoin. Well, I found this very surprising. So saw this on AMB Crypto. If Ethereum Foundation is accurately timing the market, here's what it means. So I saw this tweet actually the other day, and I retweeted it. This is Edward Mora. He says, friendly reminder that Ethereum Foundation cashed out at the top again, because they did the same thing in 2018. ETH down 40% since then. So the ETH Foundation sold the top. Now it reads, as per the wallet address shared by the trader, Ethereum Foundation holds close to 353,318 Ethereum tokens, valued at over 895 million at the time of writing. Before January, the trader noted that the foundation cashed out on 35,000 Ethereum on May 17th, and then 20,000 Ethereum back in November 2021. So what I'm trying to get at this, I'm not saying that they're not allowed to do this. I'm not saying that Ripple employees or Ripple people that work at Ripple, or people that the head of Ripple, they shouldn't be able to sell their tokens when they need to. I have nothing against that. But what I do have a problem with is the hypocrisy of people hating on XRP, saying that, oh, look at your XRP is a shitcoin because Ripple employees just dump on you guys all the time, and you guys are just you guys are idiots. It's like, this is what happens, guys. People that are in the Ethereum Foundation, or that work at Ripple, or any coin you can name, when the price is high, they're gonna sell. And they're not selling all their tokens. If they were just like the guy from Litecoin, I remember he cashed out all of his tokens and left Litecoin. I mean, that's when you have a problem. When they're just basically a pump and dump scheme, and they're dumping all their tokens at the top and then leaving you guys high and dry, then you should have a problem with what's going on. But when the prices are high and you see people that work in these foundations or work at Ripple and they're selling tokens, they have every right to do that. They are tokens. They own that those assets. They have every right to sell. But like I said, the thing I have a problem with is the hypocrisy. Like Ripple's the only ones that sell XRP. People sell at the top. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the whole point of this market. So it just, I just thought I'd put that out there because, sometimes it's just hard to see hypocrisy in the market. So I'll end the video there, guys. Hope you guys like these videos. I'm trying to, get as much to you guys as I can. If you can like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. Hit the bell for notification if you want more videos. But remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Please do not take anything I write or say as financial advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. And thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.